Hi everybody and happy Video Monday. Teshia here. For this week's video, I want to talk to you guys about being a woman and your carbohydrate consumption. So this can be a very complex aspect of nutrition to really figure out once you start delving into your research and once you start to try to figure out how much or how many or what types of carbohydrates work best for your unique body. So first of all, let me just say that when we are younger, and certainly if you are a man, you can get away with a lot more in terms of your carbohydrates. Generally, this is again everything is always general because it's different from person to person. But generally, men tend to tolerate higher amounts of carbs a little bit better than women. Generally, also when we're younger, we tolerate more carbs. If you have always exercised quite intensely, usually your insulin sensitivity is higher, and so you're going to be able to tolerate more carbohydrates. When you consume your carbohydrates, for example, after workouts, they're going to be better utilized into the body. And if all of these things apply to you, or some of them, you're probably not going to have to ever really worry about, the fact that you might be consuming too much. So the people that I'm speaking to here are people who have been able to make a correlation between the fact that there's something going on metabolically with their body. Something about the amount of carbohydrates is affecting their symptoms. So some days they're feeling better, some days they're feeling worse, and they're trying to figure out why. And then at some point maybe they realize, oh, well, this day I felt better and I had much less carbs, or this day I felt better and I had more carbs, or this day I felt better and I had different types of carbs. So I hate to confuse you with this, but I've seen it with so many clients. There are a lot of women out there who will benefit dramatically sometimes in terms of their health and their potential symptoms that they might be experiencing by understanding or by learning what's going on with their body and how many carbohydrates their body really, really needs versus the other macronutrients. So the people that I'm speaking to here, so a few things can go funny with carbs. So sometimes women go too low in their carbohydrate consumption, and that can create issues with thyroid function. It can also create issues with adrenals. So it's a stressful thing for your body if carbs become too low, especially if you're not adapted to using fat and your body's not easily converting fat into fuel. And there's reasons why that can be a problem for some people. So if it's hard for you to use fat and protein as fuel right now, which is going to be most people because most people have always used carbs as their main source of fuel. So in that case, dropping your carbs really low all of a sudden because you're getting ready for some vacation or something and you want to lose some weight might create a problem, at least long term, and certainly right away in terms of your energy. You might feel super sluggish, you might become constipated. All of these things would be normal to occur. So you want to be careful that you don't go too low in carb, especially for too long. So if you're somebody who's been like on the low carb bandwagon for years, and now you have issues with your adrenals and your thyroid, if your sleep is all wonky, if your moods are all over the place, if your hormones are crazy imbalanced, you may be somebody who benefits actually from raising your carbohydrates a little bit. So maybe right now you're eating only vegetables for carbohydrates, and you might need to add some fruit or some legumes or something like a little starchy, like sweet potato. These types of foods might actually help your symptoms. Now, the other side of this, guys, is that there are some people who have major metabolic disarray going on. These are people who have been yo-yo dieting for 10 or 15 years. These are people who are really overweight in a pre-diabetic state, for example. So these type of people, or people who have really sedentary jobs, these type of people probably don't need as many carbohydrates as they're consuming. And if they're dealing with energy fluctuations, if they are dealing with symptoms of high blood sugar, so if they have sugar cravings all the time, they might need to work with lowering their carbohydrates and raising, their proteins and their fats and that kind of thing. So this is really complex stuff, but I want to say to you, if you have been able to make a correlation between the amount of carbohydrates that you're currently eating and certain symptoms that you have, whether it relates to being really low carb or maybe you suspect maybe you're eating too many carbs, work on it. Hire somebody. Let me help you if the things that I say resonate for you. I would love to help you figure out a better range for the things that you're dealing with. Yeah. And the other thing to note is that if you, just really, really simple, a place to start. If you suspect that you might be in the camp of your carbs being too high, if you can't lose weight no matter what you do, for example, if your energy is all over the place, if you have sugar cravings constantly, you might really benefit from dropping your carbs. So the first way to do that is by eliminating processed foods and sugars. Okay, if that makes things a little better, but still a lot of the symptoms are kind of keeping on, you might need to go a little bit further and look at how many grains you're eating per day. These kinds of things, or how much sugary fruit. Like maybe you're eating like 7 bananas a day or something like that. So that would be the next place to go. And then you can keep going downward from there. And again, it's best if you have somebody help you with this, but this is some really good place to start. If you're in the other camp, if you're in that camp of like major hormonal dysregulation, you've started to gain weight when always you maintained your weight effortlessly, you have symptoms of insomnia, anxiety, for example, thyroid, adrenal stuff going on, you might really benefit from raising your carbohydrates at least a little bit. Now, it can be really easy to go nuts on this and to go crazy on carbs, especially if you haven't had them for a long time. So you have to be really, really careful. Make sure you incorporate them into meals that are balanced with those other macros. So don't have just a huge bowl of rice and be like, oh, Teshia said to do this. Have, a moderate portion with something else, like a big tablespoon of coconut oil and some protein of some kind, whatever you're including in that respect. If you're not vegetarian, vegan, it could be like a piece of fish or whatever. But make sure proteins, fats with your starchy carb. Really, really important. And yeah, I could keep going on about this. I'm just going to confuse the heck out of everybody. But I hope that this has resonated, as always, in some way for you. If you have made that correlation between carbohydrates and your symptoms, it is worth figuring it out. It could be so easy. It could be like just tweaking the amounts and your symptoms could be gone. You might think that you have some major illness right now, and maybe it's easier than you think. As always, you guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for following my videos. Thank you for your willingness and your desire to learn from me and from my experience and my experience with my clients. Please visit my Facebook page, Teshia Mahar and the Home of Living Live. You can keep up with me there. Send me a message on my website, www.teshiamahar.com, especially if you would like to work with me, and we can get started like right away. Have a great week, everybody. Have a beautiful Monday, and we'll talk to you and see you really soon. Okay.